Fran, that's me. I've been married just over a year now, and I've put in a lot of effort to gain my mother-in-law's approval. But it seems all my efforts were in vain. The reason? Well, it's quite straightforward. My mother-in-law approached me with something like this. I'm giving you back what I received. Needless to say, I was stunned, but no matter how hard I tried, my mother-in-law insisted on driving me to my parents' house, which luckily wasn't far. As we arrived, she shouted for my parents to come out. Inside the house, my father greeted her with a smile, but her expression was anything but friendly. "We need to talk," she said curtly, refusing to come inside. "We're here to return your useless daughter." My father's demeanor shifted, his face darkening. "What do you mean, useless?" "I mean exactly what I said," she replied, expecting my father-in-law to agree. "She's defective." My father's expression turned to one of disbelief. "Defective? What are you talking about?" "She can't do anything around the house, and she doesn't make much money," my mother-in-law continued, oblivious to my father's growing anger. "You want her back, don't you?" Before my mother could intervene, my father-in-law spoke up. "That's what I said. We're returning her, so you should accept responsibility." My mother, finally noticing the commotion, came out of the house. But my mother-in-law didn't even acknowledge her. "I see," my father said, exchanging a glance with my mother. "Well then, there's nothing we can do. We'll take responsibility and close the deal." Close the deal? My mother-in-law was taken aback. "Wait, what deal are you talking about?" "You're asking us to take responsibility," my father-in-law said, a hint of annoyance in his voice. "It's a done deal." I couldn't help but laugh when I saw my father like that. I thought to myself, he was furious, but there was no stopping him when he got like this. My father was always serious about his promises, especially when it came to me. Perhaps it was because of my childhood. I was always frail as a child. Whenever I fell ill, which was often, my father would drop everything to take care of me. My mother would stay by my side, and my father would put his work on hold. Maybe that's why he adored me so much. But being physically weak wasn't all bad. My parents showered me with gifts to keep me occupied while I was bedridden. I had books, video games, and my father's old laptop, which became my favorite pastime. Despite its shortcomings, it was enough for me to draw, play games, and explore endless possibilities. I found solace in the world of computers. Spending most of my time confined to bed, the computer became my gateway to a realm I never knew existed. It was a treasure trove of possibilities, a canvas waiting for my imagination. It all began with simple children's drawings, but soon, I was immersed in the mesmerizing world of 3D graphics. Driven by fascination, I delved deeper into illustration and computer graphics, eventually carving a path as a graphic designer. Despite my physical limitations, I found solace in the virtual realm. After high school, I embarked on a career as a remote graphic designer, overcoming numerous obstacles along the way. Self-taught and lacking formal training, I struggled to find my footing initially. But with determination as my ally, I persisted. Day after day, I poured my heart into my craft, building a reputation through hard work and dedication. Slowly but surely, recognition began to trickle in, opening doors to new opportunities and clients. 5 years flew by in a blur of creativity and perseverance. As my portfolio grew, so did my confidence. Then, unexpectedly, an opportunity arose. My father, the owner of a local construction company, approached me with a proposition to create a commercial for his business. Surprised by the request, I hesitated. Was I up for the task? But my father's faith in my abilities was unwavering. It wasn't about familial obligation, it was about recognizing my talent and taste. Grateful for his trust, I embraced the challenge wholeheartedly. My design became an advertisement, gracing the pages of local newspapers and adorning the company's website. Though our reach was local, the response was overwhelming. Encouraged by the positive feedback, I felt a sense of validation and pride. As my work transformed into posters lining the streets and bulletin boards, I realized something profound. I could stand on my own 2 feet, both in the virtual world and the real one. I relished the newfound sense of independence. It was liberating to know I could stand on my own 2 feet. Meanwhile, my posters were causing quite a stir in town. Rumors swirled about the talented daughter of the construction company, known for her exceptional designs and advertisements. Before long, locals began seeking me out for assistance. One day, an electrician from town paid a visit. "Your daughter is a designer, right? Can she create advertisements for us?" he inquired, addressing my father. With a chuckle, my father promised to consult me. As it turned out, the town electrician was actually a key business partner of ours, handling a range of electrical installations for our remodeling projects. Given the importance of our partnership, I readily accepted the offer to create their advertisements. After delivering the finished product, I was pleasantly surprised by the electrician's gratitude. But it wasn't the electrician himself who came to thank me, it was his son Clark. A recent college graduate, Clark was assisting his father in the family business. Intrigued by his ambition, I asked about his plans. "I plan to take over the business eventually," he revealed. We struck up a conversation, and before long, it felt like we could be friends for a long time. Unexpectedly, Clark's demeanor shifted, and he complimented me, catching me off guard. Blushing furiously, I couldn't help but wonder if I was being flirted with. Despite my lack of experience, I found myself drawn to him. Though we only exchanged contact information that day, it wasn't just business details we shared. It was something personal, something that hinted at the possibility of a deeper connection. I'd never experienced anything like it before. The nerves kept me up at night, unable to shake the excitement. Clark and I stayed in touch, exchanging stories and sharing our interests whenever we could steal a moment from our busy schedules. What started as casual conversations soon blossomed into something more, and we found ourselves falling in love. However, our relationship was far from conventional. My fragile health made it difficult to venture far from home, limiting our dates to leisurely strolls in the neighborhood park on my better days. We missed out on the typical outings couples enjoyed, like going to the movies, due to our conflicting schedules. While I had the flexibility to take time off from my freelance work, Clark's responsibilities as an electrician often demanded his attention, even on his days off. Despite these challenges, we found solace in our constant communication. Whether it was through phone calls or text messages, we remained connected, bridging the physical distance between us. Our love continued to grow, and a few years later, we tied the knot. As I transitioned into married life, I found myself taking on more responsibilities, not just within our relationship but also within Clark's family. Initially, my in-laws welcomed me with open arms, offering simple tasks like housework and traditional pop-up creations. However, over time, these requests began to escalate. My mother-in-law increasingly relied on me to watch over the family store, often leaving me in charge for extended periods. Similarly, my stepfather-in-law started asking for favors, such as creating a website for the store. While I was happy to help, I couldn't shake the feeling that these requests were becoming more burdensome. I'm not exactly an expert at this, but I'll keep it simple. My father-in-law insisted I create a website for the electronics company, even though it's not my forte. But that was just the beginning. Soon, my in-laws were asking me to do more and more for them, one task after another. Eventually, my mother-in-law approached me, apologizing but still asking me to handle the cleaning. "I have work to do too," I protested, but she insisted, saying, "You're the wife, can't you at least do that?" Reluctantly, I agreed, and once I took on the cleaning, there was no turning back. Cooking, laundry, and more housework followed suit. Before I knew it, I was also tasked with managing the store. With all these responsibilities, I had to scale back on my graphic design work, which meant a decrease in income. Thankfully, my husband, Clark, supported me financially, so I wasn't too worried about the money. However, a fever struck me one day, leaving me exhausted. When I tried to explain to my mother-in-law, she didn't seem too pleased. "I can't believe you get a fever over something like that," she remarked before leaving the room abruptly. I felt a pang of guilt, wondering if I had offended her. But the truth was, my body often had a mind of its own, and there wasn't much I could do about it. As I lay in bed, Clark came in, concerned. "Are you okay?" he asked gently. With a weak smile, I replied, "Yes, I'm sorry." He reassured me, saying, "Don't be too hard on yourself. I understand." But his parents? I confided in Clark about feeling trapped by my in-laws' demands, but he seemed puzzled. "Why not just say no?" he suggested. His words struck me as naive. "It's not that simple," I explained. "When it comes to my in-laws, it's complicated. Saying no could create tension and even lead to bigger issues down the road." Clark's lack of understanding left me feeling even more isolated in my own home. Tears welled up as I grappled with the loneliness of it all. But I knew I couldn't let myself be defeated. With a deep breath, I resolved to steel myself against the challenges. Even after the fever passed, my mother-in-law continued to pile on requests. I tried to balance her demands with my own workload, hoping to earn some favor with my in-laws. Yet despite my efforts, their expectations seemed to grow. Then, out of the blue, my mother-in-law asked about my income. Her probing questions left me feeling uneasy. "It's none of your concern," I wanted to say, but her insistence on financial support caught me off guard. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Despite the supposed success of the electrician business, she hinted at financial struggles. It left me feeling unsettled, unsure of what to make of her request for money. Something didn't add up, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being taken advantage of. I hesitated before disclosing my income, aware of its modesty. "Right now, I'm bringing in about $500 a month," I admitted. My mother-in-law's reaction caught me off guard. "Only $500, she exclaimed, her face turning red. Feeling defensive, I pointed out that I contributed significantly to the household chores, from cooking and cleaning to managing the store and doing laundry in her absence. But my efforts seemed to fall on deaf ears. Suddenly, my mother-in-law excused herself, returning moments later with my father-in-law in tow. To my shock, she announced, "I'm returning you." Forced to accompany her, I was taken to my parents' house, where I was informed in front of my father that I was being returned. In response, my father calmly declared his intention to close his own construction company. This unexpected turn left my father-in-law exasperated. "You're going to ruin our business," he accused. But my father remained resolute. "I have to do what's best for my daughter," he insisted. In the end, my father-in-law stormed off, leaving my mother-in-law to deliver one final blow. "You useless wife, you don't have to come back," she spat. Feeling disoriented and hurt by my father-in-law's harsh words, I turned to a friend for advice. "What should I do, Dad?" I asked, overwhelmed by the hurtful situation. "Wouldn't it be better to get a divorce?" he suggested. Despite the pain, I couldn't shake the hope that Clark would come for me. After all, his love mattered most, even if my in-laws disapproved. However, days passed without a word from Clark. Finally, a message arrived from him, bluntly stating, "Let's get divorced." I refused to believe it, bombarding him with messages, but he remained silent. Eventually, Clark's lawyer contacted me, informing me that his parents had persuaded him to end our marriage. Devastated, I reluctantly agreed to the divorce, accepting the alimony and terms offered by Clark. Thus, my brief marriage came to an end. Meanwhile, my father's construction company shuttered its doors, but my brother stepped in to carry on the business independently, severing ties with Clark's family. The fallout from my divorce spread throughout the town, tarnishing Clark's family's reputation. As rumors swirled, they faced increasing avoidance and dwindling business. However, the situation took a surprising turn when my brother's construction company faced sabotage. Repeated incidents of vandalism, including broken air conditioning units, left us baffled. Despite reporting the incidents to the police, the sabotage persisted. Desperate for help, my brother reluctantly turned to Clark's family for assistance. To our astonishment, they not only agreed to help but also suggested charging a premium for their services due to the growing demand. Outraged by their exploitation of the situation, my father condemned their actions, declaring that profiting from others' misfortune was unacceptable. I seethed with anger, though the situation had nothing to do with me. Helpless, I resigned myself to the situation, but my brother refused to back down. "I'll find the culprit," he declared, rallying support from several clients. Curious about his plan, I questioned his choice of action. He explained that he would lend them intercoms for free. "Intercoms nowadays have video recording and sensor functions," he reasoned. Skeptical, I doubted it would be that simple. Yet within 3 days, the culprits were apprehended. To my shock, it was Clark's parents who were caught red-handed. They confessed to sabotaging the air conditioners in a bid to create work for themselves after losing clients. The term mutual collapse echoed in my mind. If my father quit the construction business, Clark's family would suffer too. The arrest triggered the downfall of Clark's family's electronics shop. Clark himself found work at a demolition site to pay for the damages. Though I sympathized, I chose not to involve myself further. Content with my life as a graphic designer and store manager at my brother's construction company, I relished the absence of nagging in-laws. Yet a new problem arose, my retired father's constant concern. Always asking if I was tired or okay, he hovered around me incessantly. Fed up, I joked that he should get a job too. Surprisingly, he took it to heart, returning to work at my brother's company. In that moment, I realized my father's love for me, and I couldn't help but reciprocate. With him back at work, it felt like we were finally on equal footing, and in that newfound balance, our bond grew stronger than ever.